What up Wednesday? Hi friends, especially you. I'm talking to you. Hi friend. I hope you're having a great day. It's Wednesday. There are things that are up and we're going to talk about them. Today our topics are, let's see, we are going to get to talking about advantage and when you can go back to the original foul. But first up, we are going to talk about working with captains. So I had initially phrased that as using the captains, and I thought, well, that's not the right attitude to have at all. We are working with the captains. So that is what we're going to be talking about. First question is, you're going to be shocked. The question is from Matt Goff. Oh, I'm going to get it wrong every time. Matty Goff. He is a veritable fountain of excellent questions. I absolutely love it. Wit, stop distracting me on the chat. We're going to get to this question right now. This is Matt Goff, and he wanted to know a little bit more about talking specifically to captains. So I think it was episode 5 where we discussed talking to players and how to encourage players to talk to umpires more and what kind of roles we could play. And so I did touch on captains a little bit there, but Matty was looking specifically for some guidance of how to use that relationship more constructively during the game to create the kind of environment that you want and have a really positive experience for all the parties involved. So that's where we're getting to. So let's get on with it. I should probably do a segment on captains. Yep, scribbles notes. So let's talk about it. We also had last week in episode 7, we talked about crowding and confrontations. And so there's a little bit on captains there. So, while the replay is still up, go catch it. Or subscribe so that you too can get unlimited access to the replays. I'll get to that later. So several years ago, I was in the midst of my sojourns to England. I spent 6 seasons umpiring over in the National League there and had some incredibly positive learning experiences. And one of my favorites was when I was at an under 18 school championship. And I had the incredible good fortune of being coached by Liz Pelling, who I'm sure is very well known to many of you that are on the show right now. And she got me over a really big management hump that I was having. I was struggling with my management in that I wasn't capturing the first moment of anything that was happening in a game. And so she helped me develop what I've now called the Pelling method in tribute to her, where I have a checklist of all the management steps that I'll go through in a game. And if you're interested in knowing more about that, let me know, because I might do a workshop on it because it's actually really helpful. It changed my career, so maybe it'll help you. I don't know. One of the items on my Pelling method checklist was talking to the captains during the game, because this was such a vital step that could improve my rapport with the team's communication and stopping things from happening before they had, that putting it on a list of things that I had to do during the game made it something that I was committed to, and I looked for opportunities to do that. So that's how important I think it is to have a moment where you can talk to the captains. Why are they that important? A lot of us who play in regions where maybe we don't bother much with the captains, you might be wondering, well, why the heck should I change what I'm doing? First of all, it is in the rules that they are responsible for the conduct of their teams. So that is really something that we are explicitly empowered to do. This isn't just good coaching or good practice. It's actually in the bloody rules. And a lot of us take that to mean just that if the team does something wrong, like they substitute incorrectly, or their bench is engaging in misconduct, that's who we punish. But think of it more as they are accessible to you as an instrument of management. They're actually kind of on your team. And that's what you want to create, is that bond that you two, you 3, you 4 are helping each other. The 2 umpires, the 2 captains, you have this responsibility of trying to deliver a great game together. And there's certain ways that you guys can work together. So the way that I think about it is that, first of all, they're my leverage inside the team. So when I want something to change, if I'm not happy with the mood that is being expressed to me, for example, with the misconduct or the dissent, or I'm not happy with the little nibbles that are happening, aren't quite breakdowns, but they're definitely cheeky and risky, or I don't like this edging right up to the 5 meters that a couple times I've been able to play through, but maybe it was actually 4.5 or it was 4 meters and I'm not happy with it and I want things to change without me having to step in. I give the captains the opportunity to deal with that. So I will expand on that a little bit more. When you're at the coin toss, this is obviously your biggest opportunity to make that contact. And we talked about that in episode 5 and 7, where this isn't the time where you're going to stand there and tell them what the rules of hockey are, or that you want a big 5, because a big 5 doesn't exist. There is 5 meters. There's not a small 5 or a big 5. There's 5. So you're not going to tell them things that they already know or they should already know. What you are going to do is help develop that relationship. So the first thing you do is get to know their names. If you haven't checked the team sheet, or you don't know, or you've got a committee of captains coming at you, introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Keely. Get all of their names. I mean, some of these varsity matches that we've been doing lately here in Canada, there's like 3 captains that all come at you and you're like, whoa, okay, I'm never going to remember your names, sorry. And I'll say that too. I'll be like, sorry, I won't remember all your names. Which one of you is wearing the band? So that helps you distinguish it. Okay, guess what? I'm allocating you primary responsibility for these roles when you're on the pitch and you're not serving your own personal penalty. Hopefully that doesn't happen. And that's a big step. And a lot of people say, well, do you want them to know your first name? Absolutely. Are you a human? Are you trying to be more human and more approachable? Are you trying to develop a relationship with a person? Knowing their name is kind of key. So don't be shy about that. Okay? Get over that right away. Your communication with them, your message to them at the coin toss will be that after you've reinforced, hey, I know you, you know me, I want you to come talk to me. When there's something important and you need information, you're the person, you 2, you 3 are the people I want to hear from. It's harder for me when I hear from other people. You guys know the game, you know the message, you know your team, you know what's important. I trust you, so you come talk to me. And you start off that process. Like, now you've got a contract. You've agreed that you're going to talk to the captain, and they've agreed that they're the one who are going to come to you instead of a big crowd. Bang. You've covered that off. Great preventative medicine. Awesome. During a game, this can sometimes not quite go the way you want. Sometimes captains take that as an opportunity to have a running commentary with you, which can be entertaining, but really is probably going to be distracting for both of you. And so the message needs to be that I want you to come to me for important things. When you know that there's something, information that I need to have, come talk to me. And then during the game, have that understanding that you're going to continually be negotiating where the lines are. Just because you were able to say something at the beginning of the game doesn't mean throughout the game you might say, okay, that's a little much. Can you just save it for the ones that are really important? And I'm happy to have a chat. And adjust and know that what you're doing is you're teaching the player. You're teaching that captain how to interact with you, how to interact with other umpires, how to interact with other people in other settings. And this is a life skill. And this is why captains are important and why the role is, an honor and a privilege. And it also provides a lot for the person who gets to fill it. This is on-the-job education. So you're going to be a part of that process as the umpire as you're going. Another thing that'll really help you during the game is to figure out where the captain is playing on the pitch. Are they the center mid? Are they the sweep? Are they the goalkeeper? That'll be obvious at the coin toss if they're wearing kit. Just, that's a thing. But that's one of those situations I don't talk to the players about it, but I will at the right moment talk to a coach and say, you might want to consider not putting the band on your goalkeeper, because if something goes wrong and control over the team is lost, I don't think you want your goalkeeper taking a card because they're responsible for the conduct of the team. What do you say? And that's just one of those educational things. And I understand, again, what a great honor it is to be captain and to wear that band is awesome. It's just, I mean, let's face it, goalkeepers are captains anyway. They are the boss of their circle. Do they really need more than that? I think that's just excessive, but that's just me. Okay. I see some banter going on, and I'm trying to ignore it while I'm on my mission here. So I can't wait to laugh at that when we get to the question part of all this. Okay. Not only knowing where they're playing on the pitch, know when they've left the pitch. And I know this is tricky, but this is part of your sort of broad, general awareness of what's going on in the match. You might be playing at a level, or you might have a team where a captain stays on for the whole game because they're that important. Maybe they're playing the backfield and they're, or they're ridiculously fit and they're playing center and it's all fine. But with more regular rotations, it is good to know when they're not there, because there's nothing like deciding, I need to talk to the captain this moment. You stop time and you realize the captain isn't where they were going to be. They're actually on the bench and, oh, well, this is awkward. So you're casting about alternate captain. Wait, was that Janet? Was that Karen? So just have that sort of, try to build that awareness in your mind. And one of the tips that I used is that I actually would write down. I write everything on my hand. That's why I'm miming that. Everything goes on my hand, and information like the captain's names will go on my hand, and I might put CM for center mid so that I know where to look for them and what number they are, and things like that. Very tricky, very high tech, but give it a shot if that would help you. Okay, here we are. So now we've got all our awareness things. Now you've had your coin toss and you know where they're going to be. What are you going to be talking to them? How are you going to touch base with them throughout the game? And this is something that we really don't do a lot of. I'm going to play you a couple of clips that I can show you different ways that this can happen.
Here is the lively Mandeep, leaves it for SV Sunil. Back to Mandeep, back to SV Sunil. Looks for Mandeep again. Mandeep will get it inside the circle. And what a tackle from Umpire.
Great tackle, but great link play between Sunil and Mandeep again. Giving the ball early that meant the defenders permanently having to shift and can't get close to the ball.
Okay, that's about all you can hear from Fede there, but this is a really nice touch, especially at a point in the game
great
where
tackle
things haven't developed too far and you've got the opportunity to do some preventative, some proactive management. And what he's come in and he said is he's got the captain nearby, so he's aware of where the captain's playing. He wasn't actually in the play, but Fede's got the skill to know where he's going to go with that. And so he's stopped the time and he's gone to him and said, hey, look, that was a clean tackle. Please help me keep your team under control. And the negotiation part of this is that you have told the captains at some point, whether it's at the coin toss or some other time, where it's like, hey, I don't want to be tossing players because they're not doing things the right way. Wouldn't it be better if I gave you the information when I thought things were going awry and you fixed it? Like, how cool would that be? And most captains be like, whoa, that's dope, I'll do that. And you can then get on with the business of managing the game through them. So for example, if I've had that contact and I've got that rapport with that captain, I'll be able to go to them like Fede did there and say, look, you got to tell your players to knock it off. I don't want to hear it after every call. You and I know what we're going to do when it's important, right? So fix it now. And I've had instances where I've said something like that to a captain and they've turned around and they're like, lady, shut up, just bellow it out. That's awesome, right? I mean, maybe they could take a different tone with their team, but you're not the boss of them, okay? They do them. But what you've done is you've given that opportunity to the captain. And now when they turn and they given the instruction, they're the bad guy. You don't have to be the one saying, stop doing that and wagging your finger at them. All of a sudden, it's their responsibility. It's beautiful. It is so great when you can get this done on the pitch. So that's one example of things you can do. And that can be things like your 5 meters isn't 5. I'm seeing you guys creeping up and I haven't had to take action yet because it hasn't impacted the play, but please, captain, tell your players, especially over here on the left wing, I want 5. Slight breaking down plays, hitting the ball away. There might be something that is a little bit borderline and you might look over the captain and say, hey, that was close, right? And see if they can take some action and get that awareness going. And they might go in at the quarter time or the halftime and talk to their team. They might get the message out some other time, but usually it happens at a break like that. And they'll go and they'll say, hey, the umpire just told me that you guys aren't being 5 meters. So I don't want to get dinged for that. I don't want you guys to get dinged for it. Fix it. And they will, maybe, in the best case scenario. Time wasting, dissent, like you heard from Fede there, technical issues. Here's another example of a way that you can use your captain.
Belgian possession.
So this is a recent play we had where Amber here is stopping time because there's a lightning.
And the players being
or lightning, whatever it is, but they've just come off.
pulled from the pitch because of lightning.
No idea. Hey, just a quick word. There've been 2 balls after my whistle's gone that have just ended up sort of tapped away. Okay, from your way.
Okay, so hopefully you guys heard all that. And what Amber did there is she said, hey, Jody. So she used the captain's first name and said, hey, Jody, come here. Look, there's been a couple times where just after the whistle, the ball's been kind of tapped away. So I don't want to see it anymore. You know, can you help me out with that sort of thing? And again, that's a beautiful moment in which you can take that opportunity. Going in for quarter time, going in for halftime. Unfortunately, a technical issue like that, a weather warning, great times, okay? I hear people asking or not being hip to the idea of using names. They don't want to use the players' names and they don't want the players to use their own names. And again, like I said, that is just so overly formal. It's not necessary, especially when you're in a league where you know the players. It's very artificial to be saying, hey, number 7. It's also ineffective because they don't think of themselves as number 7. They think of themselves as Jody Kenny or, well, was she 7? I don't know. But you get the idea. And again, like I said, the reflection back on you is, are you a person? Are you human? Are you approachable? And yeah, that opens yourself up to over familiarity, but that's something that you need to be able to manage as an adult. I think you can do it. After the game, here's another opportunity, another time where you can touch base with captains. Not immediately after. They may come to you right after, they may have something to talk about, and how you deal with that is up to you. Personally, I like to say, look, I really want to talk to you. Why don't you take 5 minutes with your team, 10 minutes with your team, do your cool down. I will be here and we'll have a chat, okay? Because this is important to me. So that kind of confrontation mitigation, that sort of repairing work that you do immediately after a game, or if you're doing it in the pub afterwards, at teas, whatever the case might be, absolutely those are really crucial times to have those conversations with your captains. But let them know that you're available to them at other times. You can say to them, look, if you have a league system, for example, where you're, as the appointed umpire, the club has to contact you 3 days in advance of the game and make sure you know where to go and what the process is at their pitch, and you've touched base. People have your number, and I think it's a great step to be able to say to a captain, it's like, hey, I saw we were having some problems with aerials there, and I'd love to talk to you about your viewpoint on what's going on, and I'll try to give you what I can see, and maybe we can figure some stuff out together and make it a cooperative effort. Those are beautiful. Talk to the captain and say, hey, if they're a local team that you work with all the time, be like, hey, would you mind if I came out to training and watched you guys? I'm trying to get a better sense of what your skill level is so I can call advantage better for you. Or I understand what danger is better for you. And they might say, oh, wow, you want to watch our training? Like, would you mind picking up a whistle for a scrimmage? And say, hey, absolutely. And you get this thing, and it doesn't mean that you're suddenly there teammate. You're not in their club, but you are building that rapport, and you really are building your knowledge, because the stuff you can learn from players, even when you don't agree with them, the things that you can learn from those conversations about how you're coming across, what their pain points are, so important. I just gave you marketing speak, I'm sorry. The things that bother them, knowing those things really can help you get to a better place with your umpiring for them, because you are serving them. That's the whole point. When they offer that hospitality to you, take it. It's got to be a priority. I know sometimes, and right now, COVID, I get it. There's, nobody gets to change in clubhouses if you're able to play, and you're probably not going back to having teas and things like that. Right. I'm talking about normal times. That if they say, hey, we've got teas on, up until 30 minutes before the game, if you'd like to come, you say, absolutely, I love that. That's awesome. And that's a great opportunity to talk to the captains as well. Okay, that's sort of the big picture of all the things I wanted to talk about with that. I can barely see my screen because, oh, no, I don't want volume. I want brightness. I'll figure it out. Honestly, I can't see right now. This is a good look. Okay. Oh, wow, that looks so different. Okay, let's look at some comments here. Let's see. The Count of Cornwall, Devon, Cornish, meh, meh. Okay. Oh, Jim. I'm sorry I missed you. Hey, Taff. Good to see you. Let's see. I wouldn't want to wear the band as the keeper, says Nick. I'm too loud anyway. Exactly. That's always a priority. Nick says, I do the off-pitch pre-stuff so you have a pitch captain. I think that's the smart thing for teams to do, but that's just me. We nominate an outfield player, usually a vice captain, that would take the card, and umpires usually accept that, says Daniel. I wouldn't. That's not what, they don't get to elect that. Unless you're carding the player who's responsible for it. If there's a substitution problem, it's the captain. And you want it to be the captain because they are a key part of the team. And if you can't build that relationship with that individual person, you're not going to be able to take advantage of the goodness that can bring to you. You might be punishing the least important, like, I am always, like, I end up putting my hand up to be captain quite a bit, and I tell my team, look, I'm wearing the band. I'm not going to be the one, making decisions, but I'm wearing the band. Because, first of all, I will yell at you if you guys are doing things wrong with the rules. They know me, it's a thing. And wouldn't you rather lose me than lose our biggest goal scorer? And the girls are like, yeah, that's a really good point. We really would rather you sit on the bench. I'm just kidding. They pretend, and we have this whole no, and really, I know what the truth is. So yeah, it's got to be the captain. The captain takes responsibility. And if somebody else if the captain isn't on the pitch, you're carding the captain and putting them in the seat, and then somebody else, then they can nominate the person that comes off the pitch. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Meg is asking me, don't I write on my yellow card? Look, Meg, I absolutely love the cards that a certain other dude does. Okay, the FHumpires cards that you may have seen with the yellow card has a whole bunch of printing on it. It's a great thing to do, but that came along too late in my career. My habit is that I just take the pen that's hanging off my whistle and I write on my skin because it is the simplest thing to do. Now I don't even have to reach back for my card and I write. And it's what I'm used to. If I need a quick reference point, where are we with cards, who's done what, I flip my palm and I see what I need to know. If I've got my management checklist on my hand or I've got a key word that I want to be reminded of during the game, and I went through about 4 years of this in my career where I needed to remember to look for help in certain situations. This is before radios really got to be a big thing. And I wrote big look on my hand. And I remember an Irish player, I was in Dublin doing a European championship, and an Irish player was like, who are you looking at? And she had no idea what I was doing. I'm like, just don't worry about it. It's just for me. So if you're a person who likes to write on cards, get the FHumpires cards. But if you're not, and you like to write on your hand, if that's the better alternative for you, you have to do what works for you. There's not always one right method. There's just my method. Just kidding. Okay, let's see. Simon is asking, so how we work with clubs, goalkeepers, team. I'm not sure what this means, but again, if you're saying that like, how do you work with a team that you're not sure who the captain is, that you help them figure that out and you let them know why it's important to you as an umpire. You are part of the culture of the game in your region. You have an influence on how things develop, how practices and standards go. You are there not only to just do things the way they've been done for the last 20 years, but when you learn a way that you can make the game better for the players, it's incumbent on you to help encourage things and teach things to go in that direction. So be like, hey guys, captains are going to be really important for me today because I want to work with the captains to make sure you guys have a great game. So who is it? Who's wearing the band? And if it's the goalkeeper, like I said, think about talking to the coaches, managers at the right time and just be like, so have you ever thought about this? Is this something that's on your radar? Because maybe it's not. And they just haven't thought about it all because they haven't been in games where umpires have used captains and they've never seen a captain take a card or something to that effect for their team because of something that wasn't controlled. So think about that. Neil, let's see. Yeah, Ian, like I said, pick the right moment. Don't necessarily, don't talk to them at the coin toss because that's the wrong time. And they're not going to change it then. And then it's going to be in their head for the entire game. Oh my God, like how am I going to do this? Don't. It's not that crucial, but it's something to be aware of. And I think it's important. So do that. Let's see. When international teams, Paul is asking, started using their sub-keepers as captains, how did umpires adjust? I don't know. I haven't seen that myself very much. But again, if you've got a captain who's wearing a band, who's sitting on the bench, that starts getting into, like, if that's a deliberate tactic, so the person who gets carded is somebody who's not in the game at the time intentionally, I'm not going to be very happy because you're not able to build a relationship and manage a game with somebody, especially a sub-keeper. I'm sorry, but they have other things on their brain. They're not sitting there looking at the entire big picture. They are trying to focus on what would happen if I had to step into that game. Am I in the zone? Am I watching, the attacking patterns in the circle? Who's hot today? Which of my defenders is having a tough one? What kind of penalty corner plays are they running? All that kind of stuff. They're not going to be the ones who are going to be managing the game for you. So to be totally honest, Paul, I haven't seen that very often. Let me know what examples you've seen because I would like to watch those games and see how that happened. Martin Stoneman, your mother doesn't allow you writing on your hand and you're more scared of her than me. I can change that. Let's see. Well, of course you still get biscuits at Bowden. They're awesome, obviously. I loved being able to go there all the time when I was over. Turn my mic up a bit. I'm sorry, Daniel. I didn't know I wasn't loud enough. How's that going? Is that better? Okay. Somebody give me feedback right now. Crispy got a bacon roll. Excellent. Okay. Let's see. No, it's all good. Oh, Goddard's is here. Sorry, I'm going to start from the beginning. Kidding. All right, I hope that discussion helped with all of your things about captains. These are techniques. These are skills. They're going to take time for you to to remember and learn and think about. And like I said, I am a checklist person and I am a writing things down person. So I would have, under my Pelling method, I'd have my things to do on the back of my hand. And when I did them in a game, I would pull off my pen and I'd check it off because it made me feel good. And then I could go at the end of the game and there was no wiggling out of it. If I saw that I didn't address a 5 meter and I didn't address a breakdown tackle and I didn't talk to the captain, I didn't do all the things that I'd committed that I needed to make sure I did, just the first time I saw them, I had to do something. If I had a lack of check marks, bad Keely. Okay, this is sort of a two-part question because two friends of FH Umpires brought this up with me. One inadvertently yesterday, probably had no idea I was going to talk about it. But this is from a couple weeks ago. Lockie, sorry, see, this is yours that I managed to slip in here. And if you're missing the live show, I'm sorry. But you're also in Sydney, so if you're staying up, I really don't know where your life priorities are. But Lockie wanted to talk about advantages specifically, and I want to go through what he talks about because these kind of illustrations are going to be important, and I'm going to use some clips, as I always do, to try to illustrate as well. But what he wanted to talk about was this concept of 2 bites at the cherry. So in his scenario, he's talking about how an attacker was carrying the ball near the left side in the center line. He received 2 strong stick obstructions from the same player on Team B. The ball carrier from A was skilled enough to maintain possession, and about 7 meters from the point of the original stick obstructions was cleanly tackled by a different player. And he went back to the original foul because he felt that advantage wasn't gained. So he wanted to see some examples of, like when is that a good approach and when is it not a good approach? So I'm going to go through that, and I'm going to go through this example here too. And sorry, it's a little small because it's poor aspect. I should change that. But this is from our friend Rajiv Khanna, and he wanted to know about advantages specifically in the setting where something happens just before the hooter, that word, just before the horn goes at the end of a quarter. And an umpire could have made a foul does occur, but the umpire doesn't have an opportunity to blow their whistle for probably a penalty corner or maybe a stroke or even a goal before the horn sounds. And how do you handle it? And specifically, he talked about this, and his question was about advantage. So if you were about to make a decision and you were playing advantage in the circle, and there's end of time, the horn goes, but you were playing advantage in the circle, and he says specifically, without having your hand up or shouting play on, and the horn goes or your colleague blows for full time, can you then go back to the penalty corner? It's going to be good. Okay. Oh, I'm going to show you this first because I love to start with a grand pronouncement. All right, people, the first rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. The first rule about penalties, people, is that you don't call penalties. The advantage rule is the first rule in 12, and most of us even just think it's just a concept, and most players don't even know that it's actually sitting in the rule book. It's a big one. This is a big thing. This controls everything. And for me, this is one of the most magical parts of our game. I love advantage, the concept of it, and figuring it out in my head, and how it impacts the game, and what you can do with it, and what you can build in terms of your role as an umpire on the pitch and the things that you can help the players achieve. It's so satisfying. It's great. So I want you to keep this in mind. It's a big concept. But one of the problems that we have is that we don't think of advantage in the right way. A lot of you who have been around as long as me or maybe you're being taught by people who've been around as long as me or longer, is this old philosophy, this idea that advantage is waiting to see what happens before you make a decision. That's not advantage. Stop that. Stop that right now. Take that, just excise that from your head. Extract it and chuck it in the bin, because that ain't advantage. That is indecision. That is a lack of decision where a decision needs to be made. Advantage instead, like that works in, okay, I don't know anything about rugby. Simon Gillett will tell you, I know nothing about rugby. But the one thing I know about rugby is that they don't have quite as many decisions to make as us. They might make one foul call every, 10 minutes? 1 minute? I don't know. We make a decision, either that there is a foul or there isn't a foul, every 10 seconds at the most, if we're lucky. Like, it's usually more like 7 or 5. It's a crazy amount of decisions and a crazy amount of stuff happens. So we can't be thinking that, okay, I'm just going to wait to see what happens, and 30 seconds later, didn't quite go the way I wanted. I'm gonna yank this back. That is not how advantage works in hockey. Okay? Advantage means that the best outcome for the team at that moment of the foul is that you don't blow your whistle and stop, but you allow the play to continue. In that moment, your decision needs to be made at that moment. Okay? This means you have to be reading ahead all the time. And we talk about anticipation and things like that. And that means that when you see two players about to come into contact from opposing teams, when you see that coming, you need to be assessing as that's happening, all right, where are the attacker's teammates? Where are the defender's teammates? Where are the spaces going to open up? What if the ball pops out there? What if the ball pops up here? You're planning ahead what you might do should a foul occur before the foul's even occurred. Am I going to have to take extra, am I going to have to intervene here? Is somebody coming in from a poor side? Does it look like it's going to be a breakdown? All of these things. And I know it seems like a crazy amount of thoughts, but you can do it. You can do it. You're going to develop these skills of going through all these processes at the same time. But it's too late if the foul's already occurred and you're sitting there going, well, I don't know if something good could come out of this, so I'm just going to wait to see what happens. No. Advantage is a decision right at that moment that you're not blowing your whistle. In fairness, here's my little backtrack. You can screw it up. You can be wrong. You can think advantage is going to accrue. But you totally missed a factor, like, oh, that attacker fell down before the foul even happened, and I didn't notice it. And that ball isn't going to pop out to them. Oh, that's not advantage. Okay. Or that was probably a terrible example. I'm trying to think of just, you've made a miscalculation. And it's okay in that moment to put up your hands and say, all right, humans, I screwed that up. Can we please, that was an advantage. Let's go back. But if you're spending a lot of time doing that, here is the downfall of it, okay, is that you are introducing an interruption in the game that is to the detriment of the team that just got fouled, making their possession only marginally better than possession going to the other team. And this is why players can get so pissed off at you when you're playing advantage or just waiting to make a decision, and then you go back 3 seconds earlier and you take the ball back to the free hit, and one of their teammates has to go trundling after the ball and go pick it up and come bring it back here, and they're still growling at you, and you're like, what? I gave you the call. You know what? You gave them very, very little. You gave them the ball, but you gave the defenders a chance to all run back and get into position. People think that hockey's a game of possession. It's not. Hockey is a game of space. Hockey is a game of numbers. And that is all about timing. Hockey is a game where teams move the ball and move their players around in order to create space and create timing and create mismatches. That's what hockey is. Screw possession, screw territory. That's not the crucial part. So when you stop the game and add another 5 seconds onto the process of that team being able to take advantage of their possession, you're just interrupting, and you're destroying their space, you're destroying their mismatches, their passing lanes, their timing, all those things. And that's why they're not happy when that happens. Okay, so Lockie asked me if I could find some instances where umpires came back to the original foul after playing through. And I do a lot of clips, guys, lots. And I watch a lot of games. And I can't find very many, especially at the top level, because it's not optimal umpiring. I've got a couple of examples here that we're going to see. I'll go with this one first.
The Tokyo Games. Shimizu mistrapped him. He's put under pressure. Free hit won by Argentina. Agostina Habib. Good ball into Marina. That was off the foot of Oikawa. And the shot goes wide from the top of the circle. Good advantage played by the umpire. A shame Victoria Souza couldn't hit the target. I think Marino's saying, why didn't we have the penalty corner? There was the foot, but the ball ricocheted to Souza, who had a clean shot at goal. And unfortunately for Argentina, though, she couldn't hit the target and pushed it wide.
But that's a really good example of when you absolutely won't be giving a second bite of the cherry. Advantage is well and given, and it's good. And just because not all the players were aware of what was happening, but advantage was signaled. She signaled it. You heard it in her voice. Well done, Emma. And no joke about it, the decision was made. She was not, under any circumstances, going to go back, no matter what happened. And if that player took a swipe and it hit her foot instead because she misfired, and that would have resulted in a free hit for Japan, tough luck. Okay, no second bites of the cherry.
Pushing. They're back to 11 players now, so Argentina not able to take advantage of that player advantage.
This is a really good example.
Gomez just taking it back to
how
right position.
Waiting to see what can happen with the ball means that when the ball eventually comes back, you've totally disrupted any kind of flow. However, if a quick whistle had gone, that ball would have been closer to that attacking player, and they would have had an opportunity to take advantage of the space they created, take advantage of cutting out that defender who just committed the foul, who would have been trapped within the 5 meters and wouldn't have been able to make a play, influencing the outcome of that self-pass or the pass or whatever the case might be. That's what we're trying to build and create. So these are examples. This is an example of where that quick whistle is absolutely the better option. And if you've waited that long, okay, if you have to go back, you have to go back. But this is what we want to get worked out of your umpiring on a regular basis. Here's the last one that I was able to find, and this was it. And I've cut off the sound here, but that's okay. What you might see here is that there is an initial foul over on the other side. Let me bring the video back because now I've forgotten what's happened. Okay, there is a stick obstruction, I think, just outside, and the whistle comes late. And because that ball enters the circle and then the defender has the opportunity to play it up and away, then the attack needs to bring the ball all the way back. And the only reason that didn't take as long as it normally would have is because there's ball patrol. If you guys have if you have ball patrol, you are super lucky. I'm not going to say that phrase ever again. Ball patrol. Most of us have to go get our own game ball. So that really will break down the flow of the game. See the contact happening. If you don't like what's going to occur, if you think that there's going to be a foul, you will be ready to blow it immediately. and the ball will not have been able to travel nearly as far away. In that case, yeah, it's a strike across the circle and it would have gone somewhere, but all the other players, all the other defenders would have gone, okay, the whistle's gone. I'm not going to touch that thing. An attacker receives it, passes it back really quickly. Boom, now they can move. Okay, do you see what I'm saying here? So these are the things that we want to have in our brains when we are timing our whistles and we're preparing and we're planning for these advantages. Okay? Rajiv's situation is the same principle, even though it's a very different and a very precise situation. So remember, this is when a foul occurs just before the horn goes, but the umpire is, in my view, waiting to see what happens. If you're not signaling advantage, and you're not speaking advantage, you are not playing advantage. You are not making a decision. Okay? You have to express this because that commits you to the process as well. It doesn't give you that wiggle room like, I guess. You have to be in the habit of making the decision and anticipating what decision you're going to make so that you are making it so close to the event that it's like you're seeing into the future. And people are like, oh my God, that whistle was so fast and that advantage was so good. That's because you know what you're going to call before it even happens so that it all happens at the same time. Huh? Okay, I hope you're getting excited about this because these are the kind of concepts I get excited about. So I had this situation in recent memory, and I'm going to again go back to that time I was umpiring at Durham, and I realized that I tell a lot of stories about umpiring at Durham. But in fairness, for those 6 years that I was umpiring in England, I probably did 75% of my matches at Durham because that's where I was located. And I did university matches every Wednesday. But I remember so clearly I was umpiring the men's ones, and there was a play right in front of me, so sort of in the right wing corner, and it hits a foot just inside the circle. And I can see that it's going to pop out to an attacker at the top. And I am screaming my advantage. I got my arm, nice and high up in the air. That styly, I'm just, go, play it. And the attacker steps up and he rips the most blistering tomahawk. I mean, it was beautiful. It was so great. And I am so excited. The ball goes in the goal and I am I'm blowing the heck out of that goal. And as I'm blowing the whistle, the horn goes. And I go, oh shit. That is the knife edge of playing advantage right at the end of a quarter or the game. Because had I called the penalty corner, the horn would have gone maybe 3 seconds afterwards, but the team would have retained an opportunity to be able to have a first shot, maybe a rebound, maybe a couple passes, maybe a this, maybe a that. But at that moment when you're playing advantage, there is a shot and there is nothing else because time is going to wind down. So you've got to have the time on the clock in your brain when you are deciding what you're going to do in your circle. It matters for advantage because it's not as advantageous to have just that one shot at the big blistering tomahawk right at the end of the quarter. So like a lot of times in my umpiring career, I was just bloody lucky that I got away with that one. And the teams were, good advantage umpire. And from the defenders and the attack were, I may have had a pint in the bar afterwards. It may have been nice. But man, I could have totally blown it. Because I make the decision to play that advantage. And if that shot gets saved and the advantage and the rebound is coming out, or it takes that player a little bit more time to gather the pass and they weren't able to get the first touch off, I shouldn't go back. That is a second bite at the cherry. I had made the decision that advantage existed. So you can argue, okay, well, Keely, you know, you weren't aware of how much time was left in the game. So that was a mistake on your part, and you want to correct it because the best outcome from the teams is that you admit your mistake, and that's okay. And had I gone the other, if that had been the outcome, I would have, okay, I call the penalty corner. I have, of course, at the time when the ball hit the player's foot inside the circle, I've got an attacker screaming at me wanting the corner. Pops out to their teammate, boom, tomahawk, everybody's happy. Everybody's forgotten they were yelling at me. But if I go back to the corner, the defenders are looking at me thinking, so you go back because the attackers are yelling at you? What kind of umpiring is that? So they're mad. The attackers are kind of happy, but your credibility is shot, and you're going to have to manage the heck out of that situation in order to absolve yourself of that. Your mistake is glaring, and for the defenders, it just looks like that you didn't know it hit a foot, and you're just guessing, and you're just going along with the attacker said. Not a good look. Not a good look at all. And the best way to manage a game is to not have to manage the game by making the best decisions possible in the moment. So that's a thing. All right. I hope that was pretty clear. Let's go back. John Lee, good to see you. I can't wait to see what you're going to tell me about all that situation. Let's see. I'll go back to those comments later. Okay, John Lee. Chiming in, the rugby rule sucks anyway. Sure. That must be why I don't watch rugby. That and I'm Canadian. Could be those two things. And rugby advantage goes on for far too long anyway. The biggest problem with trying to draw these things out and going back to original fouls, nobody knows what the heck happened 5 seconds ago. We're like goldfish, right? Players, fans, you're watching the game, you're like, I've got no idea. Unless you're an umpire and you're watching, you've got this whole different conception of what time is when you watch the game as an umpire. Because you've got the past coexisting with the present and in the future with the anticipation and reading, and it's like you're pretty special this way. You watch the game differently. So you have that mental training, but a lot of people, other people watching don't. And the confusion that results from having to go back to something. I mean, how many times have I put up clips on social media where a long advantage has been played and somebody comes back to a card and everybody's like, what? Especially the player who just committed the heinous stick tackle, 50 meters back. They're the one going, what? It's like, how can you forget? You almost stole their stick from them. You almost broke it in half. So if that degree of confusion can occur even at high levels and things like that, it is a real mess. And you have to be really good at your communication to make sure that the message is out there. You've got to be screaming it to the heavens. Coming back, play through, number 7, I got you, like whatever you have to say. But it's got to be really, really nice and clear. And if you're not signaling all that, you're just going to have more to manage later. So get the skills on point so that you make the game easy for yourself. What, Wit? It's a need to shift focus? So we are going to be talking, this is my friend Whit Harris here, and we're looking at doing something about focusing as a workshop. If that sounds interesting to you, you want to know what the heck we're talking about, Whit is a super smart person about this stuff, and I'm learning a ton from him about this, and maybe you want to learn it too. Let me know if this sounds like a skill that you would like to learn. Let me know. Neil, something I like is that possession isn't always advantage. Sometimes the free is more of an advantage than having the ball in a difficult area. Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to be looking ahead at what will this attacker want? How can I get the person who gets fouled the best result right now? Right now. Not 5 seconds later when I have to bring the ball back. Right now, what's the best result? And that means you have to look ahead You have to read the spaces. You have to know where the players are. You have to know what they're capable of doing on the ball. You have to gauge pace, and you have to gauge skill and experience and vision and all kinds of stuff. Stress, fitness. A player has just been pumping it, trying to get up the line, and they get fouled and they're just exhausted. Maybe they want the hit, and it's okay to give the quick free hit to them. Think about those things. Yeah, especially in one zone D, that is a very common theme. I also think that it's important not to just take that for granted though, because there are times where you can play beautiful advantages out of your D, but you have to be looking ahead. And it's even harder because there's so much more happening in the D. You've got more decisions happening more quickly. Okay, this is high level stuff here, guys. This is high skill, but you can do it. Think about it. Self-pass is the advantage, often the most advantageous thing if you blow it early. And that's because, the why of that is because the ball is close to where the foul occurred. And there's no chasing it down and bringing it back. Ball placement is now not an issue. And that helps your management. That's one thing that now you don't have to think about. If you're really good at anticipating those fouls and understanding when that quick whistle can go, you are going to have a lot less work to do on the pitch. And 5 meters is just going to become a breeze because you don't have setups. You just have the ball going. You have nobody dissenting, nobody appealing at you because the ball is going, and everybody just has to run it down. They got no time to talk to you. It's awesome. It's awesome. Trust me. Okay, let's see. John, I think you should also verbalize the decision. If in your mind is what you're thinking, a player over the ball won't be looking for a signal if they don't hear a whistle. Exactly. For some reason, wait a minute, John Lee, you don't umpire. What are you talking about? I want to hear more about this on the next Reverse Stick podcast. I go with you got it rather than play on, but the player always gets it. Absolutely. Developing a different vocabulary for no foul and advantage is crucial. So some umpires will just use the word play and play on. That's okay. Let's level that up so that you can let a player know whether you're going to not be calling a foul because you don't think there was one, there was no disadvantage, or there wasn't actually a foot, or whatever the case might be. So you might be saying, nothing there. Nothing there. No foul. Give me some other examples of the things that you guys say. When I am indicating that, and that'll be my signal as well. So I've got a different signal for nothing there. Okay? Whatever it might be. I've seen some umpires that they'll take their finger and they'll point at the ball. It's right there. Go play it. Oh, go play it. It's really cool. But I think this is nice and clear, and it's not this. That is, oh, this is off you go. Nothing there. Or I do this one too, where I'll be up here, I'll be just going, just keep going. Okay? But you got it, or try it, you've got it, keep going. Those are more like advantage. Some umpires actually say advantage. Too many syllables for me. I can't get them out. If I can't say ball patrol, I can't say advantage on the pitch. Okay. Ingborg, what do you got? Especially around the D, sometimes a better advantage, that quick whistle. Yes. So the self-pass era changed advantage so much. And this is why I'm talking about an old philosophy and a new philosophy, because the self-pass, boom, it blew it up. And you've got to look at it in a different way, because now that quick ball, that quick self-pass, it creates space when before a quick whistle would kill space. Use it. You can build an amazing game with it. There we go. Defenders can take a free hit anywhere in the D now. Franz, you're asking what the D is. Sorry if we're using terminology that is uncommon for you. I am actually quite a stickler for us using the correct words. The reason we use the word D is it's another word for the circle. Because incidentally, if you ever look at the circle, it's not a circle. It's actually in the shape of a capital D. That's why we call it a D. It also is kind of like defense and anyway, acronymish. But that's where that comes from. So sorry, Franz, if that was unclear for you. And let's see. Okay, Roger, you like to place longer advantage for attacking positions versus defenders. Defenders prefer the quick whistle. It's not that you're playing a longer advantage, Roger. You're just more likely to play advantage. You're more likely to make that decision for the attackers because you know that if you get them a little bit further, if instead of calling that terrible free hit just outside the circle, if you can just make that decision that right there, that's not the best outcome. I think they want to fight through that, and I think they want to get inside the circle because then they'll get a penalty corner. That is not a longer advantage. That is a better decision. That is playing advantage where it is the better opportunity, the better option, what the player who's been fouled wants in that moment. Shift that thinking, okay? I want to hear that from you. Okay. Ian, you tend to call nothing there, play, seen it, you got it, right? And especially when you're going to come back for a card, using some kind of phrase like, I saw that, I'm coming back. Ooh, so good. There was actually a bit more of a discussion, and I can't remember if it was on one of my threads or it was somewhere else, where the infamous James McKenney, he comes up with the most incredible hypotheticals. And he said, well, what if you play advantage off like a sliding yellow and then the same player gets up and he does it again or something? Are you going to give a red card? And I'm like, no, because that second tackle isn't going to happen. You know why that second tackle isn't going to happen? Because when that player goes in screaming into a sliding tackle and it's dangerous and it's terrible, you are going to be broadcasting to the universe that player is in the shithouse. You are going to be saying, I saw that, don't you dare. Or I'm coming back. And that player is now like, oh, I'm not getting away with this one, am I? They're not even going to get re-engaged in the play. Never mind go after another sliding tackle. And if you haven't been communicating enough with the teams, if they don't know that you're going to verbalize this, if they're not listening to you, you've got some deeper management issues to consider. And we're going to have to do some deep work here. But that situation should never happen. Okay? Because you are communicating to the players what's happened, what's going to happen, and what you're going to do about it. Yes, it's a fair point, Roger. Thank you. Godders, what do you got? Benefit advantage to defense if spotted is that you can break a good press. Exactly. That can be beautiful. And as somebody who plays sweep, I'm a defender. Now in the middle, I used to play on the outside, but now in the middle, I am always looking for ways to get quicker outside and around when we're being pressed, because I don't like being under pressure. I'm not the quickest. So I look for ways that I can deviously, and I'm always planning, how am I going to get out of this? How am I going to get who am I going to pass to? Because I'm not going to dribble around anybody. So I respect when an umpire gives me that opportunity. And if they blow that whistle, I'm still taking my pass quickly because I'm behaving as though I've been given advantage. But maybe I have been given that extra space because that whistle came out quickly and I got a 5 meter. I was able to cut out a player who was caught within 5 meters who would have backed up and then occupied a passing lane that I was hoping to be able to pass through. See what I mean? So it's a delicate balance. It goes both ways. It's amazing. Dave says, I try to avoid nothing there for the simple reason if you've missed something, there was something there, you lose credibility. No, I mean, like, let's face it, Dave, if you've made a decision that nothing was there, there's no difference between you broadcasting that and you not blowing your whistle. Because if you're not doing anything about it, you just look like you're not even paying attention. If you're not verbalizing that you believe nothing happened, what you're doing is you're telling the players who aren't looking at you what decision you've made. Not that there's no decision there. Okay, or that, you know, oh, I don't even think that's close. So being able to tell the players, look, I know that you think there might have been a foot, but I had a view of it. This is the decision that I'm sticking to. Say it. Say it. Take that risk. I think that's one that an instance where you're going to want to try that. Yeah, I agree. Nick says it's surely not good to second guess yourself, and you don't want to be keeping secrets from the players. I don't want players to keep secrets from me. I want them to tell me stuff. I want us to be close. I want us to be like friends. And I want them to know what's in my brain. Because the more they understand, they're like, oh, I know what the umpire's seeing now. Maybe I don't agree with it, but hey, I at least I can act and I can play in a way that takes that into account, instead of me being surprised that I've gone through what I thought was a bad tackle, and I am sort of looking up trying to find the umpire to see, well, where the hell's my call? If I can hear them saying nothing there, I'm like, oh, well, guess I better keep playing. That's a better option for a player. Simon, what are my thoughts? I blew a short corner. Simon, you blew a penalty corner, sir. Simon blew a penalty corner for a deliberate kick of the ball by a defender, which stopped the attacker taking a quick hit, first defense. Afterwards, after the game, my other umpire said I should have carded her as well, as though I thought the penalty corner was punishment enough. It's hard to say, right? When you're adding on personal penalties, you want to do so in situations where you feel that the message needs to be sent to that particular individual, and by extension, everybody else, that this kind of misconduct has to stop. It could have been that this was maybe the first time that happened in the game. Maybe you're still in the first quarter, maybe, or the first half. And you don't need to pile on that extra personal message. So with something like that, where there's such a clear, way to address it, to redress the scales of justice, as I'm always talking about, then that's good. Now, the deliberate kick, the fact that the player didn't just, we tend to really fasten on the obvious manifestations. When a cynical running in a way so that the ball hits my feet because I know where the ball's going and where they're going to pass it to in order to get it back to the right spot of the foul, and I'm running through that lane, oops, hit my feet. So why do we treat that differently than the player who gives it a deliberate kick? A player who gives a deliberate kick in the middle of the play because they're clearly not even trying to use their stick to keep the ball out of the goal, like, that's just cheating. That's just cheating. I'm like, I'm not even going to bother to try to use my feet. I'm going to kick the ball. That is more of a time where you'll immediately go to a personal penalty as well as the team penalty, because that's just poor. You don't want that behavior. So balance that out. Think about it. Simon, it's not a bad point, but I would have had to have been, all of us would have had to been in that game with you to know what the best option was there. It is a consideration, but not necessarily the way that you would need to go at that moment, at that point, and make sure that you're still going to treat the cynical versions of that same behavior the same way. And if you won't, don't give the card. And let's see if they had scored. Okay. Somebody needs to flesh this out with me, because I think I've missed some key posts as to what we're talking about with the second bite of the cherry. I'm not sure. Okay. Somebody fill me in. It's already 1:18, so it's got to be fast. Let's see. Yeah, Dave, I totally understand. Like you're still clarifying what you mean about, using nothing there playing. And yeah, a cleaner word, you can say nothing. No, nope. I've done that. I'll be like, nope. So whatever you need to do to make it clean, but the point that we want to emphasize that John brought up is that it's really helpful to have one word for you haven't seen a foul and a different word for I've seen a foul, but I'm continuing on with the play because that's what you want, friend with ball. Okay? 2 different words. I don't care if it's 1 syllable or 14 if you can utter them. As long as everybody's understanding you, use your words, but use different words. Okay, that's the point there. Daft. That's exactly what I was going to say. It's a daft move. Thank you, Neil. Not what I was going to say. Okay, let me see if I can contextualize this a little bit. This is when I wish I had I could just Skype one of you and then put you into the broadcast so you could just tell me quickly with words. If a player is pushed while they're shooting, then that kind of timing issue is, that's very, very close timing from the foul to the result. So you probably have the opportunity to see what happens in terms of I am making the decision right there that player is going to have a great shot. So you try to make that decision in that evaluation. Remember that a penalty corner isn't a sure goal. Even a penalty stroke isn't a sure goal. It's pretty darn close, but it isn't quite. Okay? So that simultaneous moments, that's where that balance shifts a little bit, okay? This is a spectrum. This isn't just a black and white. But what I'm trying to get you guys to consider is that it isn't about the length. It's about you being able to make that calculation right away. And that push should be, you should be reading that, and that's coming. And you still have, especially there, that personal penalty to come back to. Okay? So again, I would want to see the scenario to know exactly, okay, how does that feel and what really is the opportunity and what level of skill are we dealing with? If I've got, I don't know, Carla Rebecca shooting, I am going to absolutely play that advantage. Much more likely because dang, she can do that. She can score that goal. And as long as and I have to look at her body positioning. I have to look at where the push is coming from. Where is the goalkeeper? How far away is she from the goal? Are there any other defenders in the way? All these things are going to come into your advantage calculation. And then you're going to make a different decision based on the level of skill. At my level of play, bloody well, just call the stroke and give the yellow card. Okay? So, I hope that helps a little bit. Let's see. And if you play on, do you still give the personal penalty? Yeah, in that case, you absolutely do. That is a personal action. That is a player being a jerk. And you don't want them to think that just because the goal got scored that it's okay that they push them. That's when a personal message has to be conveyed. Okay? I hope that helps. Let's see. Last one from Roger. If there was a coming together but nothing serious and no side was disadvantaged, I would call play to indicate I saw it, but happy to carry on. Okay? And if that's your lexicon and you're consistent with that and the players can understand that as they get to know you throughout the course of the match and over the course of a season and over the course of a career, great. Figure out what you're going to do, make it deliberate, make it intentional. And this is because this is a really strong, valuable part of your skill set. And you need to use this deliberately as the way that you are managing a game. Thank you all. It was great to see you as always. I have 2 topics all ready for next week. Thanks to Nick for tagging me into those questions. And I'm looking forward to the discussions. They're going to be great, just like today was. So Nick is sorry, not sorry that I've got some homework. I appreciate it. Have a great one, everybody. And thanks for joining in as always. DM me, text me your questions. I love to hear from you. Thanks very much, guys. Ciao.